I come from a time where vampires used to be really cool, and it's shade to I have become today, a lover of big titty goth girls. Anyways, one of the first games I ever played in my memory was on the PS1, Soul Reaver. What I didn't know at the time was that there was a game before it, Blood Omen. Both these games are a part of the Legacy of Kain franchise, a franchise that's been dead since 2003, and created by Crystal Dynamics. This franchise spans other sequels of these two games, Soul Reaver 2 and Blood Omen 2, and the last one bringing the two protagonists of each game together, Defiance. The Legacy of Kain franchise takes place in the dark world of Nosgoth, Blood Omen being the first in the series where you play as Kain, a nobleman turned vampire. Welcome and well met. For today, I simply want to talk about my first time playing this game. It's a lengthy game to go over and one I'd rather you play for yourself if you haven't had the chance. The story of the game is okay, for its time. In 1996, games with big stories was just getting on their feet, and this was one of them.
The tavern's closing. Best be on your way, stranger.
What? No mug of ale for a weary traveller from distant Corhagen? I can reward you well, for I am of noble blood.
I stay open for no man in these dark times. Things come with the night that no sane man would welcome.
And so I left, cold of heart and soul, forced to the road and the long, bitter night.
End it! Now!
You play as Kain, a nobleman denied drink at a tavern while traveling and is assassinated right after. The game lets you fight the assassins until they kill you. Kain wakes up in hell and Mortanius, the necromancer, brings Kain back as a vampire to get vengeance. This vengeance not stopping at his attackers and goes further to find the ones who ordered it, culminating in Kain going to the Pillars of Nosgoth, watched over by a ghost named Ariel who helps Kain find peace with his new life, sending him on a quest to restore the corrupted pillars by killing each of its guardians.
The mentalist Nupraptor was renowned through Nosgoth for his tricks of the mind, telepathy and telekinesis. Pilgrims traveled from all across the land seeking the comfort of his lies. I sought not his wisdom, but his life.
It has incredible voice acting, and I still remember some from Soul Reaver, and the sound design of the attacks and blood-sucking is spectacular.
This lunatic was delighted to see me. Perhaps his madness would reveal a greater truth.
Hey, Victor!
Honestly, this to me was one of the carrying points of the game and maybe even the franchise. I haven't played Soul Reaver since I was a kid, but from the first words out of Kain's mouth, I was brought back. Just the way that Kain narrates everything for the storytelling is phenomenal, and knowing the VAs back then didn't really look at games seriously to put so much effort into it makes me appreciate how much they took the voice work seriously. I could listen to an audiobook in this style and be enthralled. My only complaint is the amount of times I have to hear Kain scream,
Hey, Victus!
Vey Victus.
Hey, Victus!
The gameplay by large is pretty simple. You can attack with numerous weapons, a sword, a mace, twin axes, a flaming sword, and Soul Reaver. You attack your enemies until they waddle about and you can drink their blood to heal. You also get a multitude of spells to work with, most spells having a dungeon tied to them to learn with, and this took most of the time of the game to progress.
Form enables me to move like lightning and leap over obstacles barring my path, but the guise of the wolf brings with it its own kind of hunger and rage.
Spells not tied to your magic have limited uses for each time you pick them up, and they are scattered across the world, and various places, one of which is a mega dungeon that you can only access during the full moon. Each time you acquire a weapon, armor, or spell, Kain also gives exposition about it, which ends up really dark and well described.
These curious devices hurl bolts of whirling energy and eviscerate my human enemies by stripping ragged flesh from blood-stained bone.
Aside from the fighting, the dungeons are mostly dodge traps and find switches to open a door. Some you need specific forms to be in, like your lupine form, but I went through most of the game not using the expendable spells. I'm an RPG player mainly, and I'm used to hoarding them, but these spells make quick work of everything usually. The boss fights themselves are pretty mediocre. The first one, Nupraptor, is the best due to it having somewhat mechanics, but the others become a shield and tank and spank until they died. I'd even go as far as to say I was going through the world of Nosgoth and I forgot what I was even doing without a guide. The Guardians felt like they barely get mentioned and kind of just show up when it's time to fight them, sometimes even together, but it didn't really feel like I was seeking them out, just I happened upon them, even though I was being directed by Mortanius where to go. This is one of those games I feel was made with strategy guides in mind if you remember them, or maybe for kids with too much time. There are so many secret caves with loot. There's even a counter at the end of the credits of how many you got, spurring you to do more than one playthrough. I don't want to spoil the series too much now, as I think it's worth getting through if you're interested in the dark world of Nosgoth. It's vast, and the built upon lore throughout the game seems staggering just as I'm doing research into some of these characters. Crystal Dynamics recently did a survey to gauge interest in a revival of the Legacy of Kain series, and I think it'd be worth your time to go through and crawl through the world of Nosgoth. Ve Victus.
Ve Victus!
Hunger and weakness are no bar to vengeance's call. I would find my slayers and send them back whence I came. Ve Victus!
There he is! Kill him! You bastard! If we put you down once, we could do it again.
What trickery is this?
Their sneering faces were forever etched upon my memory. I had crossed death for this moment. My mind was empty save for one thought. I would kill.
There is no greater release than that from vengeance sated. With my assassins dead, my quest was over.